Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. His brother Raya want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, by Hashem Mashiach like Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body a living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprisings, the uproars, they out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading, praying, and fasting, doing everything they can do to magnify the Most High and His beloved Son Yahweh Shah. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Aquaf in this thing that actually sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts for our foremothers on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Aquaf that are not married as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading and praying and fasting and doing everything they can do to magnify the Most High and help the ministry. Another strong shalom to all of the zealous children out there, abstaining from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the 12 tribes, reading, praying, and fasting, magnifying the Most High and His beloved Son Yahweh Shah. Right, this is going to be an in-depth breakdown on the war, right, in the sea, inflation, and troublous times. Right, I'm going to share my screen, but before I do that, man, make sure you praying in the last days. Make sure you praying. Make sure you're fasting. Make sure your spirit is on fire. Make sure that you're coming before the Heavenly Father with a spirit of compassion, right? Sincerity, repentance. These are the key factors, along with faith, mercy, grace, and keeping the commandments that's going to get you delivered, man. See, right now, war is on the earth. War is on the earth at a heavy, heavy level, man. And just because it's not in your Pacific city doesn't mean that it's not heating up on the earth, man. Iran is in war. Afghanistan. You got all of these Arab League and these countries, they're getting stirred up for war in World War III, man. America's involved, Russia's involved, China's involved. All the kings of the East, they are involved, inching into World War III, nuclear destruction, ICBM missiles, man. It's not in the days to come, it's not going to be nukes and drones anymore, man. It's going to be power ICBM missiles that are going to hit these cities that are going to destroy masses amount of people, man. Let's go to the mighty book. Right, let me share my screen. Let's go to the mighty book, right, of Ezekiel. Let's go to the mighty prophet Ezekiel, man. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 40, and I want to start at verse number 4. It says, "And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes and hear with thine ears." So we're in a state in the last days where we got to take very high notice of what we hearken unto, man. Not into drugs, wickedness, and evil, but we got to listen to what the Lord is showing you, man. The Lord is showing you through dreams, revelations, but pivotally through prophecy, man. Through His Son Yahweh Shah. It says, "And set thine heart," your heart is your mind, "upon all that I shall shew thee." So the Lord is saying to ponder the things that you witness in the last days, man. Ponder the false flags, the attacks. Ponder all of the ICBM missiles, right, being gathered into their armories. Ponder the things that are going on in the last days, man. People heads being blown off. Limbs. People getting together massive warlike vehicles, man. Right, the locusts in the air. Consider the ships on the sea. For the intent that I may shew them unto thee, thou brought thither. Declare all that thou seest. So as a watchman, everything you see, you have to command. You're commanded to speak that on the highways and the hedges, man. You're commanded to declare all what you see. Because if there's a bus coming and there's a blind man coming and you don't say anything, you're guilty of murder. If somebody's about to be destroyed and you don't warn the people, that blood is going to be on your hand, man. That's Ezekiel, the 3rd chapter, verse 17 all the way down. So you have to consider through the spirit how serious this is to declare what you see, man. In the last days is not a spirit of ease, relaxation, and mirth. You have to continuously keep watch to declare what you see, that you may save a soul, man. You never know what you may say to the next brother can have weight on that brother to lift him out of sin. Lift him up upon his feet, man. Exhortation. To scare that brother, man. Pulling him out of the fire, like it says in Jude. So you have to be considerate in the last days what's going on the earth. Let's go to the mighty book of 2nd Esdras. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 5. 15, that's what I want. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 15 and verse 1. It says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy. So what's being spoken in the last days? It's the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. So if you're an apostle, you sent out, you're commanded to teach prophecy, man. If you're a disciple, meaning learn under the master, the teacher, you're commanded to learn prophecy. If you're a teacher, you're commanded to teach prophecy. No matter how you want to look at it, in the last days, this is the spirit you're supposed to be in. And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And it caused them to be published, that the people may read. Because these words and these prophecies, they are faithful and they are true. Now, I want to share my screen, right? And I want to dive into this real fast. For brothers that do not know, that aren't aware, the Strait of Hormuz is a very, very pivotal, lucrative port, right, of an avenue in the seas of the Arabian Peninsula that travel great shipments of oil and have very, very great shipments in the sea. Now, if you didn't know, right, we're going to dive into it. It says the Strait of Hormuz is primarily governed by Iran and Oman. Right? These are Arabian, right, Ishmael countries, as it lies within their territorial waters. Now, even though it lies in their territorial waters, you have different governments and different things by the UN that have laws that are governed by all nations to apply. So just because it's your territory doesn't mean you own those waters. Right? I want to dive into that later on, most I willing. Iran experts signify de facto control, maintaining a strong naval, right, presence and controlling several islands in the area. The waterway is also considered an international transit passage, vital for global oil. So what is this? It's considered international transit. So before this war, right, they didn't have a problem with people traveling through, because Iran has war mentalities and hatred and brewing up and all hell breaking loose toward the United States and Israel. They're trying to cut off the sea. And when you cut off the sea, that's not only going to affect the United States, it's going to affect most of the world. And it's going to affect it through the global amounts of oil that it ships, right, through its navy ports. And that's very pivotal and it's important. Why? Because that's going to affect you. Just because America hasn't been bombed on its soil physically by an enemy doesn't mean that you don't have economic attacks. You have economic attacks that are going on right now. Remember, and like I said, I don't have to get a million precepts, right? Because I'm trying to stay, to the point of the lesson. Because I got a lot I wanted to touch. I got a lot I want to touch on through the spirit. But I'm going to get this real fast in the mighty book, right, of Judith. Let me get this quick precept. I'm going to come back to this. Let's go to the mighty book of Judith. All right, it's the mighty book of Judith, chapter 7. And I want to start, right, at verse number 7. And viewed the passage up to the city and came to the fountain of the waters and took them and set garrisons of men of war over them, and he himself removed toward his people. Then came unto him all the chief of the children of Esau, and all the governors of the people of Moab, and the captain of the sea coast, and said, so these are what these men, these heathen said, that are captains of the sea and the coast. Let our Lord now hear a word, that there be not an overthrow in thine army. For this people of the children of Israel do not trust in their spears, but in the height of the mountains wherein they dwell. So everything isn't about nuclear warfare. That's not the only way you can oppose a threat against another nation. You could cut off their economy. If you cut off their economy, you cut off a large portion of them being able to function. Huh? You cut off their oil. You cut off their gas. You cut off their manufacturers. You cut off all of the science and the different things fueled to create new things for breakthroughs. You cut off the electricity, you cut off the grid. If you get an economic attack, not only is it going to hurt the economy and the people, but it's going to affect you. When that affects you, that means what, man? All the money that you're spending on luxury items, man, right? You're buying drink, buying new clothes, you're taking your woman out to eat, you're going to be penny pinching. Not only going to be penny pinching, man, but it's going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to maintain your bills. You're going to get overthrown. And you're going to get overthrown to the point where people start getting fired, they start getting laid off. And when this thing starts to increase and increase and increase, it's not going to be laughs and jokes anymore, man. Brothers going to be dusting off their garment. You know, maybe I should come to camp. Fear is going to creep on the earth, man. See, right now, a large amount of our people, their mind is in folly. It's in debates. It's in things that don't matter. It's in who's the strongest, who has the most knowledge. It's not about sincerity and what's actually going on the earth. But in the days, the Lord is going to form your mind. Scared man, humble man, down to really understand what's coming on this earth, man. It says, because it is not easy to come up to the top of their mountains. So what did they do? I mean, when you read this chapter, we don't have to read the whole thing. But if you cut off a nation's water, right, you cut off their cisterns, you break them down on an economical level, right, they're not going to be able to function. You could read about that in Kings and many other precepts, trusting in the hills and trusting in the mountains. Because we're a people where Israel is upon many mountains. But nevertheless, that was their mentality, those men on the sea. So it wasn't just about spears. It's not just about swords. It's not just about bucklers. This is manyfold, man. Right? Let me get this real fast. And brothers, let me know if you can hear this. Let me see. Bear with me. Give me a strong count if you can see this. Give me a strong count if you can hear this. So brothers can hear this. So they're having war right now upon the Strait of Hormuz. Right? Again, you have Oman, right, where you see World War III. You have Iran, right? That's literally, they have war and they have ships and they have all type of nukes aimed at the left side and the beginning straight as you come in. So they're not playing no games, man. They're telling them straight up, you can't travel through here no more. So they're trying to break down the economy because they just seen and just know throughout all of the world that the United States have just robbed Venezuela for their oil, man. So this is a war zone. Straight up and down, this is a war zone. They literally have aiming mines that are set up, right? So that nobody can travel through, man. Let me get this real fast. Let me see. Bear with me. I got a lot I wanted to dive into. Right, I want to get this real fast. So they have aiming mines. Now those mines are going to destroy any ship that's trying to travel through. Right, and I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me 1 second. Bear with me 1 second. I want to share my screen so brothers can see this. And they're laying down all type of mines through all that coast. So that's a war zone. You can't travel through peacefully anymore, man. They're turning that place up into a war zone. Right, let me get this real fast.
When you think of a sea mine, you might picture something like this, floating just beneath the surface, tethered to the seabed, awaiting devastating contact with a ship. Iran is reported to have a mine stockpile of 2,000 to 6,000, despite the recent US bombing
2,000 to
of
6,000.
Navy platforms that could deliver them. This recently released video, real or fake, has been produced to suggest plenty of other delivery platforms could remain intact in tunnels deep underground.
Right, this is fair use. So a lot of this footage, they say, may be real, it may not be real. It's a lot of false flags. It's a lot of sorcery going on in the last days. But for what the whistleblowers are showing, you have to take heed and discern through the spirit.
So what do we know about the mines Iran has should it decide to turn the Strait of Hormuz into a permanent no-go zone? While many are domestically produced, their stockpiles are also reportedly sourced from Russia, China, and North Korea. So what kind of mines are they? Iran probably has floating or drifting mines, which, as it sounds, are mines that are not anchored and float free with the currents, but they can't be controlled.
Right, this is going to shut off all your traveling, man. And don't think this is going to be in the Strait of Hormuz. War is going to come throughout all the earth on the sea. You're not going to be able to travel. They're going to cut off all type of traveling through ships, through planes, right through your car. You're not going to be able to travel through bridges. So wherever you are, you really got to understand when they cut things off in a city and you're trying to leave, it's going to force you to be literally a sojourner. It's going to force you, right, to be a pilgrim on the earth.
And risk destroying unintended targets. These can be laid by ships and aircraft. Buoyant mines can be drifting or moored, but can vary their depth, armed with explosives triggered by contact or the target's magnetic or acoustic signature. Contact or moored mines are anchored to the seabed by cable, floating beneath the surface and detonating when a ship hits the horns on the mine. It's likely these are Soviet era and are cheap and easy to deploy. If Iran has rising or rocket-propelled mines, it has a very sophisticated anti-ship weapon. China has one called the EM-62, but don't bother searching for video online. You won't find it.
You got your aircraft vehicles, you got your fighter jets, you have all of your warplanes, but you also have mines. You also have bombs and different things deployed in the ocean.
These rest on the seabed, detect a target signature, and launch a rocket or torpedo upward. They have multiple influence sensors, a high explosive warhead, and are designed to defeat ships that try to avoid contact mines. Influence mines or smart mines are more advanced. They have multiple triggers, detection systems, magnetic sensors, acoustic sensors, and pressure signature. They wait for a vessel with a precise signature to pass before detonating. Iran is believed to have hundreds of these hard-to-detect advanced influence mines.
Like hundreds of these, man. They have hundreds of these. Let me dive into some precepts. Let me get this real fast. Let's go to the mighty book of Isaiah. Matter of fact, let me get Ezekiel. That's what I want. Let's go to the mighty book of Ezekiel, right? Chapter 27. Go to the mighty book of Ezekiel, chapter 27, and I'm going to start at verse number 3. It says, "And say unto Tyrus, O thou that art situate at the entry of the sea, which are a merchant of the people for many isles, thus saith the Lord God, O Tyrus, and have said, I am the perfect of beauty, man. I am the perfected of beauty, man." That's what they say in their heart, man. And that's America on a deeper level. But when you actually look at what's the perfection of beauty, what's the beauty of beauty, man? To be able to rule the earth with all of the ointments, all of the merchants, all of the different things you deck yourself with. Remember, America's personified as a whore. The mystery of the whore of Babylon. When you read that in the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter. So she's a whore. Whores deck themselves up. They put eyelashes on. They put fake hair on. They beat their face. They do all of that to deceive and change their character and who they actually are in their visage. That's exactly what these nations do. But America has stolen, raped, and robbed, and it's become the perfection of beauty, man, on many levels, right? On a geopolitic level, man, right? Geo meaning geography, and politics are the things that they pass in their bills, and strength do they have through their pen that become the perfection of beauty. But also in the seas, man, through many trades. It says, thy borders are in the midst of the sea, and thy builders have perfected thy beauty. Let me jump down to verse 17. It says, Judah and the land of Israel, they were thy merchants. They traded in thy market wheat of many, and pegna, and honey, and oil, right? And balm. So they were trading oil in the ancient world. That's not anything new. And these straits where they passed through, they had many trades. They traded souls of men, honey, wine, right? Wheat, oils, and all type of things. So oil isn't anything that's new to be traded in the ancient world. The Lord said, the ships of Tarshish did sing in thee in thy market, and thou was replenished and made very glorious in the midst of the sea. So the Lord said, look, you used to be glorious, strong. People used to depend on you. You used to do a lot of trade, used to go back and forth in the seas. It says thy roads, right? Salaki, bear with me. Let me get this real fast in Ezekiel. I'm going to go right back to that. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 27. Let me read that again. I'm going to start at verse 26. Thy roars have brought thee into great waters. The east wind have broken thee in the midst of the sea. So the Lord said the east wind have broken the ships of Tarshish in the sea. What is the east wind? The east wind is personified as judgment when you look at the east wind. So the Lord is saying a large amount of war is going to take place at the sea. The beauty of your perfection, all your shipments coming in. The Lord is going to break you down and bring forth an east wind. Let's go to the mighty book of Jonah. See, the east wind is personified as judgment. You have the north wind that drives away and or brings cold. You have the east wind that personifies as judgment. See, the Lord has different gates and different judgments that he brings forth by the winds. Let's go to the book of Jonah. All right, let's go to the mighty book of Jonah, chapter 4. It's the book of Jonah, chapter 4. And I want to start at verse number 8. And it came to pass when the sun did arise that God prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah. So the Lord chastised him, huh? He was getting on Jonah. But how did he do it? Through an east wind. That east wind being driven up is personified as the Lord casting forth judgment. That he fainted and wished in himself to die and said, it is better for me to die than to live. Let's get the mighty book of Job, huh? So when that east wind arrives, all hell started breaking loose and the Lord started judging the earth. The Lord said he's going to cause an east wind to come upon, right, the ships of Tarshish, which was personified as America, to fall in the midst of the sea. So all of these wars that America is in, though they feel like they're winning, though they feel like they're on top, that's not thus saith the Lord, man. They will fall. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter, let me see what I want. I'm on 27. In verse number 19. The rich man shall lie down, but he shall not be gathered, meaning he's not going to be buried. The rich man is Esau. He's not going to be gathered to be properly buried. He's going to be upon dung upon face of the earth. He opened his eyes and he is not, meaning he's here for a second, now he's gone. Terrors take hold on him as waters. A tempest stealeth him away in the night. A tempest and waters are going to drag him away. The Lord personified as the destruction of Esau is being carried away by strong waters. The east wind carried them away, and he departed, and as a storm hurleth him out of his place. What's that storm? That's that same storm spoken about in 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter, man. If you got ears to hear. That storm is going to bring about the east wind. What is the east wind? Judgment. So the Lord's going to liken his destruction to be a fire, brimstone, east wind, tornado, hurling stones. This is all parabolical talk that the Lord's going to kill him and cast them away, man. He's going to be upon dung. For God shall cast upon him and not spare. He would flee out of his hand. Men shall clap their hands at him and shall hiss him out of his place, right? Let's get the mighty book of Ezekiel. Let me get one more through the spirit. So the Lord's going to drive him away with a vehement east wind of destruction. It's the book of Ezekiel, right? Chapter 28 and verse number 2. Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, And thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the sea. So remember, you have invisible principalities. Principalities, you understand, and thrones are set up in different regions. Now, just because there isn't any land there doesn't mean you don't have power seats. Just like we just saw earlier on, right through the video, the Strait of Hormuz is predominantly around Iran, which they have that war zone and they're blocking off, saying, you know what, nobody can pass through. They have set their throne right there. This is chess. And they said, look, you can't pass through. Right? America will conquer a country and name it after themselves, and nobody can go through unless they say. They so-called, which isn't true, went to the moon, planted their flag there. So when you conquer something, you put your name on it. So it's like a throne, it's a seat. When Alexander the Great, Nebuchadnezzar II, Cyrus II, and many of these kings on the left-hand side, they conquered, they ruled that whole region of land. Remember, Artaxerxes, 127 provinces when you read the book of Esther. He ruled all of that. So his throne was in all of those different kingdoms. Let me get this real fast. So if they're sitting their seat and their throne in the waters, that says a lot about how they're ruling it through trade, through dominion, through war. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Proverbs, chapter 9. Right? It's the book of Proverbs, right? Chapter 9. And I want to start at verse 14. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city. So you have high places of the city, right? Where she sits. The she is America. So she has a seat, which is really a throne, an invisible principality. Let me get this real quick precept. It's the book of Colossians, chapter 1. And I want to start at 16, right? It says, for by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones. So you have invisible thrones, or dominions, or principalities, or powers. All things were created by him and for him. So the Lord has invisible thrones set up where these nations they conquer and they set their seat in. It says, yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. And that's exactly what these demons do, man. Right? They set their heart as if they're the Most High through every level humanly possible. Now, I'm going to read this again, right? The waterway is also considered an international transit passage, vital for global oil, right? So ask how much oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Approximately 20 million barrels of crude oil and petroleum products pass through the Strait of Hormuz daily. So that's going to affect 1% out of, or /4, 1 out of 4% of the whole earth. So 25% out of the whole earth, this is going to affect, man. You know how large that number is? Representing roughly 20% of global petroleum liquids consumptions. As a vital choke point, it serves as primary route for oil exports from Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and the UAE and Kuwait, with over 80% destination for Asian markets, right? It says, the Strait of Hormuz is vital narrow waterway separating Iran to the north of Oman and the UAE through south connections of the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. For brothers, like I said, that do not know or aren't aware, you have a map. So you have the Persian Gulf right here, Saudi Arabia, right? You have Oman on the left-hand side, the United Arab, and then you have Iran right here. Now, again, through shipments and trade, they're cutting off this whole region right here. They're saying that you cannot travel through, which is going to affect the whole entire earth. The more this war increases, the more inflation is going to rise. The more things are going to get uncomfortable. And you have no say-so about it. You should really want these things to happen, man. When you start to lose things more and more, your mind should be inching toward this is the end of the world. This is what comes to this, man. See, it's comfort in knowing the Strait of Hormuz is being cut off. Iran is involved. Americans involved. Okay, this is prophecy. Okay, when you go to the book of Ezekiel, the 27th chapter, it's comforting. But the more lost you are, your mind is elsewhere, you're going to worry. You're going to be rational. You're going to do strange things to survive. Your mind isn't going to be spiritual. It's going to be carnal. So the more aware you are and watching, the more comforting it's going to be to your spirit. Right? I want to share this real fast. Salaki, let me get out of this. And I want to share this video. Right? Because we just getting started through the spirit. Salaki, bear with me. I got a lot I wanted to dive into. Let me see which video I want. Let's dive into this one. See if brothers could see this. So 6 vessels attacked in Gulf Strait of Hormuz was war. It's merchant ships from the front line. So again, like if you watch them, you see these things coming up. You think the burn after current Iranian attack is way more than one shooting. Right, I want to get this other video though. So like it, bear with me.
CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon takes a closer look at all of this for us. Joy.
Sandy, this is fast becoming a war at sea. The U.S. president threatening Iran with even harsher punishment if it continues to target global oil and shipping. New video from Central Command shows the U.S. blowing up Iranian vessels suspected of laying mines near the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has effectively closed the shipping lane, attacking more than a dozen. Is fast becoming a war at sea. The U.S. president threatening Iran with even harsher punishment if it continues to target global oil and shipping.
So they said if they continue this up, all hell was about to break loose. It's an all-out war.
New video from Central Command shows the U.S. blowing up Iranian vessels suspected of laying mines near the Strait of Hormuz.
And we just went over that. They're laying, that's exactly what they're doing. They're setting it up to where you can't pass, and they're just attacking them, blowing up in the midst.
Tehran has effectively closed the shipping lane, attacking more than a dozen oil tankers trying to pass, choking off the world's lifeline for oil. And
the world's lifeline for oil.
Sending energy prices soaring, triggering the largest release of emergency reserves thanks to oil-rich nations.
Our countries will be making 400 million barrels of oil available. I repeat, 400 million barrels of oil.
Canada helping to offset global shortages too.
Canada will do its part to contribute to the world's supply. That will bring prices down for Canadians. That will keep prices affordable for Canadians.
With the U.S. and Israel targeting Iranian military sites and Iran retaliating with a new wave of missile and drone attacks, President Donald Trump telling reporters,
right now, they've lost their Navy, they've lost their Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft apparatus at all.
And he's nothing but more than a puppet. The things he's saying is to sway and to relax the American people. He's not telling the truth, man. He's not telling how desperate they are for oil, how all the relationships that they once had 20, 30 years ago, right? Everybody has cut ties, that they have more enemies than they do allies. They're not saying none of these things.
They have no radar. Their leaders are gone.
The leader isn't gone. You just had the new president just got issued, I believe this month or last month, if I'm not mistaken, of Iran.
And we could do a lot worse.
The president promising to hit harder, but also saying the war is pretty much over.
It's not over. It just begun. It literally just begun.
Which is it? Is the war ending soon, or are we on the brink of the worst fighting yet?
Mixed messaging from Washington isn't going over well.
Back in the day, in different wars, they were online. right? You still playing your game. You sitting up there, you grilling outside. You got the music pumping, everybody enjoying themselves, right? And it really don't hit home. But now this war is an economic war, along with soldiers out in Iran and different other places of the earth having war on land. And this is going to affect you. It's going to affect your pockets, man.
Trump supporters like Joe Rogan publicly criticizing the war as a betrayal.
He ran on no more wars and these stupid, senseless wars. And then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it.
With the new supreme leader, Iran insists it alone will decide the war's end, as the FBI now warns sympathizers or proxies could try to launch attacks on U.S. soil.
See that? I'm gonna rewind that part.
The war's end, as the FBI now warns sympathizers or proxies could try to launch attacks on U.S. soil.
Try to launch attacks on U.S. soil, man. It's going to happen eventually. I don't think this thing is not going to happen. They are going to launch attacks on U.S. soil. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Ezekiel, right? Chapter 29. And I want to start at verse number 2. Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesied against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And your modern day Pharaoh are these elites, Donald Trump, right? Chiefly, which is really a puppet of the real elites, man, right? Amalek, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers. But the rivers are predominantly the nations, right? So if he lieth in the midst of them, he's doing trade with them, he's in bed with them, he's getting them drunk, right? I mean, you could put 2 and 2 together, laying in the bed, which saith, my river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. I mean, I'm cutting off everybody, and this is my river, man. This is my trade. This is what I'm going to do. This is what Pharaoh says. Now, Pharaoh got destroyed in the rivers in ancient Egypt. When you go to the book, let me get this quick precept of Psalms, chapter 74. All right, this is Psalms chapter 74, right? And I'm going to start at verse number 13. Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Meaning the Most High did that during the time of Exodus. Through the hand of Moses, he divided the sea. Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. The dragons were all of the chief men that Pharaoh had in his army. He divided the sea and destroyed those men. And the sea came back together and they all drowned. You have Pharaoh and you have his princes, his magicians, were all of the men that were of high stature. The Lord said, look, you break the heads of them. Remember, you have the heads of the tribes in Israel. You have a king, but you also have heads. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces. So Leviathan, which is actually real, is likened unto Egypt. It's likened unto Pharaoh's army, having strength, power, preeminence, glory, but having many heads. And when you actually look at it, America has many heads. I mean, you look at his legislative system, his politics, its religion. The Lord's chopping down every power structure that Esau has in the last days. But yet the average American is looking up saying, well, you know, America's doing good. Everything's good. All praise to the most. All hail America. What is it? Oh, God bless America, my home sweet home, man. The Lord said, thou breakest the heads of Leviathan and gavest them to be meat for the people inhabiting the wilderness. We're inhabiting the wilderness. So it's going to break down Esau from his politics, his finances, his economic structure, right? His war. And he's going to break them down, take them out of his power seat, which is the waters, which is inhabiting many nations and countries of rape, robbing, and murder, to be inhabited, right? To be meat, rather, meaning for us to devour them that dwell in the world. We dwell in the wilderness, man. America is the wilderness. You can read about that in Revelation, the 12th chapter. Thou didst cleave the fountains of flood and driest up mighty rivers. So who dries up the rivers, man? The Lord does. So you could do all of this war in the rivers, have preeminence as you think in the rivers, but the Most High is going to destroy and break down all of these rivers. Let me go back to Ezekiel. I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, and the land of Egypt shall be desolate and waste, and they shall know that I am the Lord. Because he have said, the river is mine, I have made it, man. What does that mean, I have made it? By my own, it remind me of Nebuchadnezzar. When you read the book of Daniel, we don't have to get it, Daniel, the 4th chapter, right? He said, look, by my own hand have I formed this kingdom. What did the Lord do? He humbled him. He chopped them down. Let me get this quick precept. This is Daniel, right? Chapter, I mean, this whole thing is fire. But I'm going to start at 22. It is thou, O king, that thou groweth and becomest strong. For thy greatness is growing and reached unto the heaven, and thy dominion right to the end of earth. Salaki. Right to the end of earth. Whereas the king saweth a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass and the tender grass of the field. And that's spiritual, man. Because, I mean, from the time of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar really got chopped down. Babylon really got chopped down, and it left him a stump of his kingdom and a band of iron, brass, and tender grass of the field. Meaning literally from the time of Nebuchadnezzar, you don't have any strength anymore for any of these kingdoms. Even though they're rooted, they're still rooted, right? And they're inhabiting, but they don't flourish like they once did in their glories. It says, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which cometh upon my Lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass upon ox, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, till 7 times pass over thee, till thou knowest that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. So this same spirit that was on Nebuchadnezzar hops on kings. A lot of the time, you think you're bigger than what you are. Because Donald Trump, for the most part, he could do what he want. He could go where he want. He don't pay no taxes. He makes laws, decrees. I was watching this interview with this devil. He said, basically, what do you want to call us launching an attack on Iran in the waters? He said his prime minister, all of his generals, they came before him, his captains, all of these officers, they had this long sheet of all of these different things. Do you want to call it this? Do you want to call it that? You know, destroy Iran. We hate you. America rules. What these names? Because they would have Operation whatever, Operation this, Operation Death, Operation. And he said he finally got to the last. He said, look, I didn't like any of these names. There's lust in him, one of the greater condemnation for the world and destruction, that he ain't even like none of the names. Then he said he liked one of them. I forgot the name of it, but nevertheless, the point is that these devils, they meditate terrorists, they meditate evilness. And they said, what do you want to call this attack? So they're bringing these strategies before him. So he's a king on the left-hand side, but he has to be humble and giveth to whomsoever he will. That's what the Lord said. Let me get this quick precept. I want to get Ezekiel chapter 32. Because war on the waters is a part of prophecy too. It's not just going to be on earth. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 32 and verse 6. I will also water thy blood, the land wherein thou swimmest. So Egypt prophesies to swim. He's prophesied it in the waters. And again, let me get the classic. The waters are nations, multitudes, peoples, and tongues. He don't keep it that home, man. It's the book of Revelation, right? Chapter 17 and verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth. Again, sitteth is predominantly like a crown, right? And a throne and dominion. So she's sitting on one fold. On another fold, she's committing fornication, sitting down upon these other nations. It says, our peoples, multitudes, and nations, and tongues. So it says, I will also water with thy blood the land wherein thou swimmest. So you swim in Iran. You swim in Saudi Arabia, man. You swim all in Israel. You swim through every other nation because you're a serpent. Serpents swim. You're one of the best swimmers that's in the waters. It says, even to the mountains. So the Lord's going to break them down in all of the lands where they're swimming. And the rivers shall be full of thee. What does it mean the rivers shall be full of thee? Full of thy blood. So all of the places where you tread, where you have no business entering into, the Lord soon is going to chop you down, man. Now, I want to get this real fast. All right, let's read this. Let me see what I want. Yeah, this is what I want. All right. It says, stocks tumble on the ripple effect that oil market disruption was causing. At the opening bell, the S&P fell. So like if 500 fell more than 1%, the NASDAQ fell 1.3 and Dow fell 570 points. U.S. crude oil prices have now risen more than 40% since the start of the war. Why is the U.S. crude oil prices rising? Bringing retail gas prices along with them. So you sitting up at the pump, you thought it was bad already. I don't know where brothers live, whether they live in Detroit, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, wherever you are. You may look at the gas, it's $3, $3.19. Those things may very well shoot up to $4, $4.15, $4.25, $4.50, $4.75 since March 1st. So if you're watching, we're in the month of March. So things have already shot up. Gas prices have risen nearly 70 cents to $3.59 per gallon on Thursday. Now, if it's at $3.59 now, imagine in 2 more months, 3 more months, because to burn out oil don't take long at all. Overnight, the key terminal for oil exports in Oman, right, was reported evacuated after tankers, right, and choked off the coast of Iraq were attacked. Iraq also suspended operations in its oil terminals, right? But let me get this real fast. So you have something called international laws that predominantly from the UN, where all these nations they sit, they collectively agree on things. Now, it says the international law, specifically the United Nations, right? Convention on the law of the sea. So you have laws of the sea. Just like you have laws in the air, you may feel like you're 30,000 feet in the air, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. But they got laws in the air, you got laws on the sea, so they could establish order. Now, the law of the sea, the UNCLOS prohibits, right, the aerial closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So you're not even legally supposed to close it. So these kings of the earth are doing whatever they want to do. That's what this is basically. They're not respecting the things and the laws that they have signed with the collective agreement of the earth. You know what this is going to bring about? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to second Esdras. All right, let's go to second Esdras, chapter 15. It's second Esdras, chapter 15, and I want to start at verse number 16. For there shall be seditions amongst men, meaning uprises against governments, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings. So when you invade other lands, other territories, it's not only saying the people and the citizens, but other kings, other officers, other captains, other warriors, other generals, other army men are not going to regard nor care about these kings of the earth, man. They're going to do what they want to do, break the international laws, invade lands, set up mines. And this place that once seemingly was in order is going to be turned upside down. Nor princes, meaning the laws. Who your modern day kings and princes? Right, the 10 toes, the UN. These political people that come together in the UN, it's the political side, right, of it. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power, meaning nobody's going to be able to stop them. That's what this is saying. The course of their action, of their enterprise, what they want to do is going to stand with their power. They're going to be able to have the upper hand. Right? So it says prohibits, it says guaranteeing the transit passage for ships. So it's guaranteeing that. But now it's turned into a war zone as a vital international waterway. Iran cannot legally suspend this right, but yet they are. They're doing what they want to do. So this is biblical prophecy. You know, you get on a lower level, you have cities and uprisings, people throwing cans and breaking into buildings, and you know, Rodney King, and you know, that's on the Pacific City, but you're talking about global trade, the world, the war, the Strait of Hormuz, many nations involved, the kings of the East. So they can't even legally do this. And any attempt to block it, such as miming or threats, which they're already doing, violates the international maritime law. Now let's look that up. I was going into that, you know, before. Look at this. Let's see. Right, it says in treaties governing private maritime businesses, equal matters, offenses. See if I can get a little bit more on that. Right, applies to navigable waters, right, which are bodies of waters used for interstate and international commerce. Right, they can't cut that off. But again, their power is standing in their own hand. Right, let's go to the mighty book. Let me get this quick precept in the book of Zechariah. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 10. And I want to start at verse 11. And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea. So the Lord, when he returns, he's going to destroy these nations. And he's going to pass through the midst of the sea. He's going to pass through the sea with great affliction, meaning great judgment. And shall smite the waves in the sea. The waves are the people. It says, and all the deeps of the rivers shall dry up. Meaning the Lord is going to uncover, right, their wickedness. And the pride of Assyria should be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. Again, any king, when he takes down another nation, he receives their scepter. The scepter is what kings hold. You can read about that in Wisdom of Solomon, the 6th chapter. So the Lord's coming back for that scepter, not a physical scepter, but spiritually, because they have the scepter of the earth, Egypt, not physical Egypt, but America. And the Lord said all of those things is going to depart away. Let's get Isaiah. Let me get this quick precept. Let's get Isaiah. Matter of fact, let me get Genesis. Let me get this quick precept in Genesis. Go to Genesis chapter 47, and I'm going to start at 13. It says, and there was no bread in all the land. So when the Lord jammed up Pharaoh in Egypt, you read about that in Genesis 40 and 17 all the way down, 22 all the way down, right? The Lord gave Pharaoh a dream. The 4 favorite kind, when you're actually going into it, which were the 7 years of famine that the Lord was going to judge that nation with. That came to pass. And there was no bread in all of the land. So everybody itching, they scratching. All hell was breaking loose. For the famine was very sore. You had a famine during the time of the kings. You had a famine during the time of Genesis. You got a famine, you know, all throughout the scriptures, man. You know, Ezekiel, the Lord takes away, when judgment comes, so does famine, so do evil beasts. And the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. So it was getting so bad that they were actually fainting. Nobody was traveling. You know, nobody was really working as hard because there was no food. In order for there to be food, you have to have farmers. In order to have farmers, you have to have threshing instruments. This is not the days of slavery anymore. Those big, large watering instruments. Let me see if I can find it. Those big, large, yeah, these. This thing not cheap, man. That water, that's a lot of water to water all of the vegetation, to run pipes. That's a large amount of money, time, resources, truckmanship for these parks to come in. You know, crude oil, it takes gas, even plastic, petroleum. Let me see. What does What do you use crude oil for? Crude oil is primarily refined into transportation fuel. So oil isn't just oil, just a black tar. Everybody lesson for black tar. Let me see. The word isn't just lesson for this black liquid, man. This is really gold, right? Not literally, but the way it's personified and how many ways you could use it, right? For resources, this is a very hot commodity, right? You got transportation fuel, you got diesel that stops your trucks, your 18-wheelers, right? People that's getting transportation to go to work every day, come home every day, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. What is jet fuel used for? War. That's how these fighter jets are able to come to different areas, different regions, and different countries, man. That's how your elites of the earth able to travel. Heating oil, man. So it start going to get cold in your house. You're sitting up there on that thermometer. You're trying to turn that on. Guess where all this is coming from, right? And petrochemicals, right? Petrochemicals, right? Feedstocks to produce plastic, synthetic rubber. Rubber is used for many things. You got rubber bands, you have cars, you have tires, you have plastic. Plastic is used everywhere for everything, primarily for packaging items when you sell things, right? It says pharmaceuticals and fertilizer. It's even used for fertilizer. So this thing is used for everything, right? It says, and it's essential, right, for generating electricity. So oil, again, isn't just on one level just for fuel. So when oil starts to be a hot commodity, you can't pass through, you can't have trade. These other nations, they're going to get upset. And them getting upset is going to push for war because nobody wants an insurrection in their own nation. You know, if they didn't have all the answers, which they don't, but if they didn't have all the answers, you know what people be doing right now? Rioting right now, if they actually knew the truth. See, if you won the war, what's the reason to fight? If you won the war, why do you need to go through the Strait of Hormuz? Why are you trying to rob Colombia? Why did you rob Venezuela? Why are you doing these things if everything's calm, under control, like you make it out to be? It's not. They're out there in the White House, underneath the White House, wherever these devils meet, man, some secret cave, right? Going crazy, going nuts, staying up all night long, doing shifts that never stop to figure out how they're going to keep America going. They generate electricity, lubrication, machinery. So lubrication for machinery, you look on the side of the road, metal can't rub against metal. You have air pressure, you have rubber, and you have lubricant on these machines. You have something called a fifth wheel in a CDL truck that runs through lubricant. Let me see. Fifth wheel CDL truck. So you need lubricant, man. It's predominantly wet. Brothers can see that. That's oil. That's lubricant. So everyday items you think may not be that big of a deal, that oil helps to continue to flourish the economy, push the economy, right? Those everyday items are going to be expensive. Not only expensive, but they're going to eventually stop, man. Let me see with oil on it. You know, look at this. Brothers could see that. Say they oil it up. They oil it up. All right. Just looking at all these pictures, they oiling it up. See, that's only Esau would do something lewd like this. Right, back to the words of the Lord. Let's go to the mighty book of Genesis. Let's read on from there. Right? We go back to Genesis. So there was no bread in Egypt. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. So he got all the money from everybody. And Joseph bought the money into Pharaoh's house. So if you gather up all the money, See, money is not flowing. See, when you give money or you pay for something, guess what? You get that money back through working. But if working stops and you utilize all your resources, Joseph eventually gathered up all the money. There was no money left, man. Imagine that the economy don't have no more money. You ran out of coins at the grocery store. You ran out of dollar bills. That's literally what's going on. Everything was getting sucked out that they was paying and paying and paying, and they wasn't working and getting nothing in, that he collected all of the money out of Egypt. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt, don't even seem possible. In the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph. Let's see their mindset. And said, give us bread. Look, we hungry. We need it. They scratching. For why we die in thy presence, for thy money faileth. And nobody cares if you die in his presence. That's emotions. You got people, please, I got a daughter. I'm hungry. Please, please, please. Knocking at your door, clawing at your door. Imagine somebody clawing at your door and they stick their baby up there. You remember me, neighbor? Didn't I go to school with you in the 5th grade? It says, and Joseph said, give your cattle. See, Joseph wasn't emotional. Look, I don't care if you got no money, man. What else you got? That's how these days is going to come into. All right, you ran out of money. Now it's time to sell the items out of your house. Now it's time to sell your car, man. Now it's time to reach into that 401k. When these prices go up and everything, that inflation rises, you're going to have to make trade because you're going to run out of money. Everybody's going to run out of money. Unless you're some elite somewhere watching this, and even he is going to fail. It says, I will give, right, you for cattle if money fail. Look, we can do trade. You ran out of some money, that's okay. Give me some cattle. It says, and they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for their flocks, and for the cattle of herds, and for asses. This lets you know that asses, horses, oxen, they gender growth of an economy from farming. So there wasn't nothing growing. This is a famine. So they're like, they're no use for me. I got to sell them. And he fed them with bread for all their cattle, right, for that year. So look, man, they got money, you know, it's like they got food for a year, all praise to the Most High. They feeling like they all that, whatever the case may be. It says, then that year was ended, meaning they ran up out of all the bread. So you may make a decision in all things in and like, now what? Right, I didn't get hired. My job, you know, is laying everybody off. You know, what am I going to do through the money that I have saved up throughout this whole year is waxed away. You may have what? 5,000 saved up, 3,000. You may have 7,000. A lot of brothers may have 10 plus thousand, maybe even 20, Salaki, maybe even 20 plus thousand. You may have a lot of money so-called saved up, but you know how high rent is, man? Your expenses for the month, you know, I'm not you, you're not me. I'm guessing it's 5,000, could be 6, could be 7, could be 3. You know how fast that's going to go month by month? 3,000, 6,000, 9,000. You really don't have that much money saved that could really last you, but it lasts them a whole year. This is what happened. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes? See, now they're getting emotional again. What are we going to do? Both we and our land, buy us and our land for bread. Look, now they're offering themselves to be slaves. It's getting to the point where they gave up all their money. They have no money left in the land. They gave up their cattle, and cattle predominantly now is what? Your cars, right? Things that bring forth you strength that brings work in. Your car you use, you understand? You may use whatever the case may be, or your toolbox or your shed or all things that help you make money. They sold all of that. Now they're saying, take us as slaves. It's going to get to the point in the last days, right, where people are going to start lowering their standards, man. All you women out there and not the righteous daughters of Zion. A lot of wicked women now are, what do they call them? Gold diggers, right? They only want a man to take care of them. He got to have this. He got to have that. He got to, all that wicked spirit is going to be humbled in the last days, man. You're going to want you a good old Earl, man. All right. Right. Old Earl, man. If old Earl got a place to stay, Old Earl don't beat on you. Old Earl got a biscuit and a little bit of gravy and a sheet you can wrap yourself around when it get chilly, man. You're going to be pleased with old Earl, man. You're going to listen to all his jokes. Remember the time? And he was, yeah, I remember the time. He told me this joke 50 times. It's always that old so-called black man to tell you the same joke over and over. He forgets he tells it. Because his lust and that memory just never fades away, man. Right? Old Earl and Mr. Jenkins, man. Right? You're going to lower your standards for Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins got his house paid off. Mr. Jenkins, he go to bed by 5. He don't give, you a hard time. Right? Remember prophecy that 7 women got to cleave to one man in the last days, man. The Lord said in the book of 2nd Esdras, let me get this quick precept. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to 2nd Esdras. All right. Chapter 16. And I want 33. Right? It says, the virgins shall mourn having no bridegrooms. Not that they want, any action or laying down, but their mourning is going to be for protection. Their mourning is going to be for guidance, protection, strength. Because a lot of women don't have a lot of survival methods and mentality in the wild, nor are they going to have the strength to trot down trees and fight off men and have the mentality of the elect and what to do. Remember, the Lord said a man should be as a hiding place. Right? Let me get this quick precept. I'm going to hold that precept. We'll come back to it, most high willing. Like the Lord said, a man shall be as in hiding place, right? And that's talking about the elect in the last days. So when all hell was breaking loose, Lord said, look, a man's going to be like a hiding place. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 32 and verse 2. And a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind. We know that that wind is the east wind, which represents destruction. It's not talking about because it gets chilly, right? So that man is going to be a hiding place. Why? Because he's under the refuge of the Most High. So if you're under him, you're under the Most High. And a cover from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dark, it's like a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. So again, a lot of things that you think are unpleasant right now are going to catch the world by storm when inflation starts to rise. Women shall mourn having no husbands, their daughters shall mourn having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and the husbands shall perish of famine. Right? So the Lord said there's going to perish of famine. I'm going to get this quick precept before I go back to Genesis. Now, if you're righteous, you'll never die by famine. So if you're ever out in the wild and you're trying to figure out, am I going to eat? I don't really know what to do. The Lord will never suffer the righteous to die by a famine. Don't ever think that's a righteous way to die. And, I died. It must be of the Lord. Let me get this quick precept. Verse 3. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 10 and verse 3. The Lord will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish. So if you're righteous in the eyes of the Most High, you'll never die of a famine. You'll always find a berry, some fruit. You'll always find something to be able to sustain you in the last days. Right? So never think or give your mind over to, the fact that you'll die. But he casteth away the substance of the wicked. Now, a brother may say, well, I don't know where I'll be able to find food. In the last days, maybe I won't be as fortunate to be in a certain area. You got to always remember, too, that the Lord, during the times of World War III and vengeance upon the earth, the Lord's still going to have the natural use of fruit and diverse places to still be growing. Let me get this real quick. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, and I want to start at verse 43. This whole thing, it's fire. I'm going to start at 43. He that soweth as if he reapeth not, so also he that planteth the vineyard, as he that shall not gather the grapes. So you're doing work in vain, because you'll be a pilgrim on the earth. People may rob you, you may get overthrown. They that marry, as if they should get no children, right? And they that marry not, as the widow. So if you don't really have a husband, entering into the next, years on the earth, you may not ever have a husband. You may not ever have a wife. It says, and therefore they that labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods and overthrow their houses and take their children captive. For in captivity and famine they shall get children. So it's going to be slavery, not massively sold on auction blocks, but people are going to be running chains, man. And they're going to beat these women and beat these children, make them climb trees, make them go scavenge for food while they rest up for energy and use for natural lustful things. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities and their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more I will be angry, right, with them for their sins, saith the Lord. Right? Let me get a little bit more. That's the point. Let me go back to Genesis. This is Genesis chapter 47 and verse 19. It says, wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread. Look, you can have our houses. People are going to be selling their houses. Not the time of the apostles, for the men and the work of the Lord, but they're going to be selling their houses. It's going to get so cheap. You're going to move in with your neighbor, your brother, and we in our land will be thy servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, and the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them, and the land became Pharaoh. So all of the different diverse places of land that men had, they sold all of that so that they could be able to survive with food. Food gonna be one of the greatest and hottest commodities in the last days, man. You think it's gold? It ain't gold for you. Because you got a chain, man, a bracelet, a ring. That's not blocks of kilos of gold that you could do trade with these other nations. And neither are you going to have the connections to do trade or even know these men to be able to currency things, man. What you know, the man at the mall, you gonna go to him, man? It says, and all the people, and he moved them to cities from one end of the border of Egypt even to the other end. So people are traveling. All hell was breaking loose. Only the land of the priests brought he not, for the priests had a portion, right, assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them. So in the last days, the elites, they're going to eat, not for long, but the elites, they're going to eat. Donald Trump is not worried about the oil prices, but we're going to be worried about the oil prices. Not worried like overthrown, but worried as in, where is this next dollar going to come from? How are we going to survive? You're going to have to start cutting the things and the luxuries that you once had right now. Let me get this real fast. I don't want to turn this up in geopolitics. Right, I want to share my screen real fast. So like it, bear with me. For brothers that may not know, geopolitics, how to follow it, or whatever the case may be, I have this up. See if I can find it. Bear with me. Salaki, bear with me. I'm not sure which window it is. I might got to close a lot of these out. Salaki, bear with me. I got to close a lot of these windows out. I had a whole lot to dive into. Okay, Salaki, bear with me. Okay, calm.
On this channel, I love to talk about geopolitics, which is the interaction between geography, how the Earth is shaped, and politics, how people and countries interact with each other. This time, we'll discover why the Strait of Hormuz is so important and how being narrow has put this stretch of water at the center of global international tensions. Before we dive into why the strait is so important, let's find out where on Earth it is. This is the Arabian Peninsula. On one side of the peninsula, the Arabian Sea is connected to the Mediterranean by the Red Sea, which runs between the peninsula and the continent of Africa and joins the Mediterranean Sea here through the Suez Canal. On the other side of the peninsula, the Arabian Sea runs into the Gulf of Oman, which is connected to the Persian Gulf. Between these two gulfs is this very narrow stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz. The strait is bounded on either side by the countries of Iran, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. The Strait of Hormuz helps transport loads of oil per day.
Loads of oil per day.
On some of the biggest ships on Earth. We'll go into more detail about that in a moment. Because of how narrow the strait is and the volume of oil that is transported through it, the Strait of Hormuz is the world's most important choke point for the transport of oil.
The most important. And we just, went into through the spirit how much oil is vital for everyday function, everyday survival, for machinery, for plastic, for fuel, for jet fuel, for diesel fuel, right, for transportation.
Just to get an idea of the scale of the amount of oil.
Right, and even it's like, y'all, I want to really stop this video, but the spirit moving me. I want to get this quick precept in the book of Genesis. So oil is very important, even in the ancient world. Look at this. This is Genesis chapter 11, and I want to read. So like, I'm not sure if I'm showing my screen. Bear with me. I'm gonna share my screen for 1 second. Okay, this is Genesis, right, chapter 11, and I want to start at verse number 3. And they say one to another, right? So during this time, I'm gonna start at verse 1 for brothers that may not know. The whole earth was of one language and one speech, right? Confusion. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, right? And they dwelt there, right? And they said one to another, go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly, that they had brick for stone and slime had they for mortar. So when it says slime, it's talking about bitumen, right? Let me get this real fast, the blue letter. Bitumen is a thick, slimy liquid oil. So even from the time of Genesis, they were using that. Let me see this. I can pull this up real fast. Slime. Right? Slime, pitch, asphalt, bitumen. Now, what is bitumen? Bitumen is a dense, highly viscous, and dark petroleum-based hydrocarbon used as a binder in road construction. So even from this very day, when you're driving on the road and you see, this, for example, they still use this to this very day. So one just a bunch of naked people in Genesis swinging on a vine with half-torn shirts, putting blocks together, and they were slapping swamps of slime. This was very strategic. A lot of the, not to pull 1,000 windows and change and segue, but you had the ziggurat. Let me get this real fast. Ziggurat pyramids. A ziggurat is an ancient Mesopotamian terrace stepped pyramid serving as a temple tower, 2100 BC, right? The bridge heaven and earth. So you had the ziggurat. So this was more of the form that they were building. When you go to the Tower of Babel, Esau don't know what's going on, man. Right? They form it to look like something like this. But in ancient Mesopotamian structure, the way they built was different. So it's more in this type of form with those bricks, and they took bitumen, right? Again, which is really oil, right? They melt it down and it's likened unto slime like this. Now, if you get your hand stuck in that, that's on you. And they just same way they lay down them roads, they would lay down those bricks, and that would be as if it's a binder, and it would stick together for them to be able to grow. So they were advanced. Don't think that aliens came. A lot of people, how the pyramids were so advanced, and maybe they look up to heaven and they think that a damn alien made it, man. Right? That's why we got to look up words. We got to go into etymology. We got to go into history. All this helps us to understand the things of old. So when you look at a road today, it was the same pretty much material that they were using in ancient Egypt. Right? And again, this oil slime production, this is an ancient thing, but it's a natural resource that we still use today. Right? Let me go back to this real fast. So you have, let me see, where was I? Most High willing to come back to me. Okay, Khan. I'm gonna go back to this video. I just wanted to put that out there real fast. Let me get this video going.
Transport loads of oil per day.
Loads of oil
some of
per
the
day.
biggest ships on Earth. We'll go into more detail about that in a moment. Because of how narrow the strait is and the volume of oil that is transported through it, the Strait of Hormuz is the world's most important choke point for the transport of oil. Just to get an idea of the scale of the amount of oil and other energy products transiting the strait, here's some quick maths. In 2018, the average number of barrels of oil and other petrol liquids passing through the strait was about 21 million barrels per day. Each barrel is about 159 litres, which equates to a total of over 3 billion litres, or more than 1,300 Olympic swimming pools of liquid
You shut down that and see how the world's going to be affected.
per day. This is about 21% of the entire world's daily petrol consumption. 1/3 of all of the sea transited oil on Earth travels through the strait, as well as 1/4 of all of the traded natural gas. The Strait of Hormuz is only about 39 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Because of this, ships transiting the strait must stick to strict shipping lanes. Despite its narrow width, the Strait of Hormuz is deep enough to accommodate the largest ships on Earth, the epically named Very Large and Ultra Large crude carriers. Large ships exiting the Persian Gulf via the Strait of Hormuz have to participate in a carefully choreographed dance. The first shipping lane starts in the territorial waters of Iran. It then passes between 3 islands, which are currently administered by Iran but claimed by the UAE. Next, our supertanker must pass into Omani territorial waters to transit the narrowest shipping lanes in the narrowest part of the strait. Once through the strait, there are more shipping lanes in the Gulf of Oman that can take ships back into Iranian territorial waters. We've talked about how the Persian Gulf is connected to the Mediterranean Sea via the Strait of Hormuz, but actually in 2018, about 76% of the crude oil transmitted through the strait headed the other direction, to Asia, and most of that went to only 5 countries: China, India, Japan, Singapore, and South Korea. To get to the large markets in
So, I mean, essentially, America can't compete with China and Russia on a military level without help. We understand that, right? But if you chop them down where it hurts on an economical level, they can't finance the war with the money that they have. So this thing is getting dirty. Like they say, you punching below the belt, right? Like Mike Tyson, you ripping the ear off, you grabbing somebody's hair, right? War is war. You're going to have chemical warfare, economical warfare, military warfare, right? Nothing is off limits in the last day.
East Asia, oil tankers usually have to traverse another oil choke point, the Strait of Malacca, which we might talk about in another video. So the Strait of Hormuz is narrow, is done to try and mitigate any threats to the stability of the Strait of Hormuz as a shipping route? Well, only Saudi Arabia and the UAE can bypass the Strait of Hormuz by shipping outside of the Persian Gulf and have pipelines to get the oil to those ports. Remember that 21 million barrels per day transited the Strait of Hormuz in 2018. Saudi Arabia has the East-West pipeline that can transport up to 5 million barrels per day to its port on the Red Sea. Although in 2018, this pipeline was only used to transport 2 million barrels per day. It also has a natural gas pipeline, which can transport the equivalent of 300,000 barrels per day. The UAE has the Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline to transport oil directly to the Gulf of Oman, which can pump up to 1.5 million barrels per day, but was only used for 600,000 barrels per day last year. Other pipelines exist, but most are relatively small and cross international boundaries, so have fallen into disuse due to the recent conflict or political disagreements between.
Right, that's very important. So I know you see a lot of land, but you really do have, different rivers and Niles and valleys, within these other nations. But nothing is big and so convenient, right, next to Asia, next to Africa, right on the Persian Gulf. This is a perfect pivotal point, right, to be able to transport oil.
Between countries. So what does the future hold for the Strait?
And it makes it easily accessible. Because when you look at this map, let me see this. That's burning more oil and energy and gas to go this way, then go this way, then come up that way. Now you got a problem with, international territory. Now you're going this way. Now you're going all the way up around that way. It's confusion.
Most are relatively small and cross international boundaries, so have fallen into disuse due to the recent conflict or political disagreements between countries. So what does the future hold for the Strait of Hormuz? Well, that's a very tricky question, and one that I probably can't answer. As we've discovered, the importance of the strait is amplified by the geography of the region, including a lack of viable alternate shipping routes. But it's also important to acknowledge that the strait is fully integrated into the territorial waters of various countries, meaning that the politics of the region affects the stability of the strait as a shipping route. The Strait of Hormuz will likely continue to be one of the most important shipping routes in the world.
Right now, America's been having problems with Iran, from the early 2000s. So this is not going to die down, right? Don't think that this is going to die down and, things are going to go back to normal. Things are only going to get worse in the last days. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Ezekiel, right? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 31. Ezekiel chapter 31. And I'm going to start at verse number 12, right? It says, and strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut them off. So everyone's going to cut off America in the last days. It's inevitable, right? These 10 toes, these 10 nations, they're going to hate the whore. They're going to burn it with fire. And the strangers, these other strange nations, the terrible of the nations, strong empires, have cut him off and have left him upon the mountains, and in all the valleys of his branches are fallen, right? His infrastructures and his bowls are broken by all the rivers of the land, and all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow. So everybody used to dwell under America. Like I said, make America great again. Back in the 30s, back in the 20s, right? Back when they had that American dream spirit, man. Everybody was laughing and joking. You had Elvis. They had their rock music. They were born. They were being birthed into a nation, and they really were coming alive. They're coming off of slavery. Their ancestors had pivotal, prominent wealth over all businesses. There's no need to show your horns anymore because America's already built. They could tuck them in now, man. Now you had to beat, subdue, and rob and rape to get what you want. But now after you got it, you can sit on your rocking chair, man, and see your land, see your children, for many generations, still and reap the benefits of all of the oil, man. So those days are coming down. They're going down to the ground. It says, and everyone that's under their shadow is fleeing away, right? You had the East Indians, they run into America, your Moabites. Everybody wants to be an American. We want to live the American dream. It says, and have left him. Upon his ruin shall be all the fowls of the heaven remain, and all the beasts of the field shall be upon his branches, to the end that none of all the trees by the waters exalted themselves for their height, neither shot up their top among the thick boughs, neither their trees stand up and their height in all that drink water, for they are all delivered unto death, to neither part of the earth, to the midst of the children of men, with them that go down to the pit. So the Lord said, all these men are going down to the pit. It's the point. Thus saith the Lord God, in that day when he went down to the grave, I caused the mourning. So the Lord said, look, when he went down to the grave, I caused the mourning. I covered the deep for him, and I restrained the floods thereof, and the great waters were stayed, and I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, and all the trees of the field fainted for him. So everybody's going to wail. It's really going into Revelation, the 18th chapter. Let me get this quick precept in Revelation. So America's built on trade, man. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 18. And I want to start at verse number 11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her. And that's exactly what's going to happen when they cut off everything. Everybody's going to leave from under America. Not that they love America, but what will you get from America, man? If you got somebody that's hooking you up, your car, you got a favorite mechanic, and he don't work there no more, you're going to mourn. It's not physically talking about they're going to weep. Meaning the things that they've encountered through trade and business and commerce and money, that's not going to benefit their countries anymore. They're going to mourn for that. And no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet. This is what makes America great. That's why everybody's going to mourn. This is going to be cut off. How does this come in? Through what? Through trade, through different stitches of the sea. Scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and of cinnamon, of odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusteth after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainties and goodly are departed from thee, that thou shalt find them no more at all. So that's literally going to happen. Not only is the Lord going to judge America, when the Lord judges, the Lord also is going to judge Asia. Now, I'll say that for another breakdown. When you go to the book of 2nd Esdras, the 16th chapter, and you dive into it, Asia, it represents all of those people on the east. Russia, China, right? Going to all of those people that are on the east. Is not talking about the Moabite man necessarily, but Asia, the complete continent, is covering mass amount of nations. Is Iran in Asia? Let's see. Give me a yes or no. Yes. Yes, Iran is located in Asia, right? Specifically situated in the region of West Asia. So when it says Asia in the scriptures, you don't want to just equate that necessarily to just the Moabite man. You look at all of these nations. You got China, right? You got Russia, right? And all of these men, right? Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, right? These are the kings of what you call the so-called East. Those men are in Asia. They're going to get judged too. The Lord's judging all flesh, right? But let me get two more precepts and I'm going to close out. Let's get the mighty book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, right? And I'm going to start at verse number 1. Remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth. The days of thy youth are when we were born into a nation, when we came into Egypt on a deeper level, and we spurled and we increased and we followed after the Lord. We came out of Egypt with great substance and we followed the Lord right in the wilderness. Those are the days of our youth of Israel, being a son. We became a son, you understand, in Egypt. We grew in Egypt. So remember thy creator in the days of your youth. Remember where you come back from. It's not necessarily saying when you were born in the truth, right? Although most definitely in the spirit can equate to that. When you go to Jeremiah, get this quick precept, Jeremiah chapter 2, in verse, this quick precept. Get this quick precept. I'm going to read this whole thing. I'm going to start at 2. Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, thus saith the Lord, I remember thee, the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousal. Thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. So where were we in our youth? In Egypt, when we came out of Egypt. So the Lord is saying, look, remember thy creator. Look for the magnified things that I did for you. Look at the wonders. Look at all of the miracles. Things that through that time to this very time we haven't seen, man. Sprawling out waters out of a rock, the earth opening up, man. The seas, the Lord destroying your enemies. Remember your creator, all the things he can do as in the days of your youth, while the evil days come not. The evil days is the days we're entering into now. The evil days is right before judgment. It says, not the years draw now, right, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. But people are going to say that, I don't have pleasure in these days. It's going to be hard to think positive. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened. That's your intelligence, your wisdom, your knowledge, the electricity on a physical level, your lights, right? The internet, you being able to find knowledge, accessible to be able to drive. All of these things that bring you knowledge, light, and wisdom, these things are used for navigation, for time. The sun is used for time. You understand? The moon for months. So you can't read the times, nowhere to go. The stars for navigation. You understand? Be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. It says, and the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves. The keepers of the house is all you men, right, that keep this society. They're going to be trembling. They see the oil increasing and going back away. They see the war increasing. You see how much money America has. They need all of these different tactics that they're going to have to invade lands to continue to heap money for this war. They know all of these things. So these people that keep this society, they're going to tremble, man. And they're trembling now. And the strong men, your elites, shall bow themselves, meaning through terror of the economy being broken. And the grinders, right? Your CDL trucks, your managers, your people that open up businesses, people that run all of the electricity grid, because there are few. And those that look out the windows be darkened, right? So those that look out the windows are people that are high up, man. People that are in skyscrapers, right? They're not going to always look down on the poor. Them themselves are going to be poor. It's going to get so bad, again, that all hell is going to break loose and America is going to fall. And the doors should be shut in the streets, and the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music should be brought low, right? Your enchanters, your sorcerers, just like in the times of Egypt, right? They're not going to be able to enchant with their enchantments to overthrow the prophecy of the Lord. So right now, the Lord gave them their reign to the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. So their sorcery and their witchcraft kind of meant something. But all of this music and piping and beating and piping up, that's not going to mean anything, right? Your magicians can't keep up with the plagues in Egypt like before. They couldn't keep up, man. I believe, don't quote me, they did about 4. And after that, they couldn't keep up. Maybe be 5. But they couldn't keep up with the 10 plagues, man. You used to say the Lord did this through the hand of Moses. The Egyptians went right back. Lord did this through the hand of Moses. The Egyptians went right back. But then they got to a point where they couldn't keep up, man. It says, I'm going to read that again. And the voice of the bird and all the daughters of music should be brought low, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse number 2. The Lord said, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For found thy works perfect before God. So the Most High said through his son Yahushua to be watchful. Being watchful is extremely important. Make sure that brothers are hitting that refresh button and staying pivotal about what's going on. And strengthen up, which remains. Passover's on the rise. Demons and spirits are going to hit you left and right. Don't think it's strange when you got problems in your marriage. Don't think it's strange when you got spirits on your kids. Don't think it's strange when you got spirits at the job. Don't think it's strange when out of nowhere you slip and you pull something. Don't think it's strange when you get terrorized by night in your dreams. Don't think it's strange when all hell breaks loose and you don't see it coming. Be watchful. It says, remember therefore how that has received and heard, right? And hopes like it. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come in thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So if you're not watching, you're going to get visited by night, right? Where you're not vigilant, it's going to overtake you and overthrow you. So most high willing, man, brothers, continue to pray for faith in the last days, man. Sincerity is very important. That I would rather a brother that's sincere around me than a knowledgeable brother that knows all things. Then a sister that got the tallest hair wrap, man, got the cat in the hat. That doesn't impress anybody, man. Be sincere in the last days. Be trustworthy. Have integrity, man. Whether the camera's on, whether the camera's off, whether you're watching the videos during the week, the Lord is watching you, man. All that sick, lewd wickedness that you may be doing in the dark, examine that before you take those same spirits into Passover, defile the lamb, condemn your spirit and those that you're eating with. Take the time in the spirit to examine yourself, to look at yourself in the mirror, man. I say all the time in all these videos, sometimes you may not need to read this. Sometimes you may not need to read this. You may need to focus on yourself. Psalms 51 is beautiful because, you know, David said, then shall, let me get that real quick precept. Get one more before I close out. Right? So David knew that, man. All right, let's go to the book of Psalms. All right. Chapter 51. And I want to start at verse 12. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation and uphold me with thy free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors thy ways, and sinners should be converted unto me. He said, look, then I can teach. Then I can show, you know, others your ways, man. Then I'll be able to, you know, being able to move in this thing, man. The Lord said, let me get this quick precept. Verse 6, right? It says, behold, thou desirest truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden parts thou shalt make me to know wisdom. So in order to really receive the hidden things, you have to purge out iniquity. Because you may desire truth in the inward parts, and you ask in the Most High. Very next line, purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. So we want the Most High to wash us and remove all of the iniquity from us that we may be clean in his sight. Right? But with that, Most High willing, man, this was edifying. Continue to watch war, geopolitics, news, prophecy. Make sure that you're in tune with the spirit of the earth. Make sure you're taking care of your family, you men, providing, protecting spiritually, financially, mentally. You sisters, make sure that you're a pillar of rest to your husbands, man. We need that more than ever in the last days. Everybody is against the men of God. And God forbid it's the daughters of Zion. You children, be zealous, man. Don't think that you can't make a difference. The Most High calleth the whole nation. Make sure that everybody's on fire, doing what they can to magnify the name of the Lord. With that, I'm going to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, in the name of his beloved son, Yahushua. Shalom.